Hey there, and first off, congratulations on testing out of a math topic in math class. I picked this acronym PEMDAS for you to start expanding your learning and diving into some deeper math. PEMDAS is actually an acronym used in algebra. It is the rules that you have to follow to correctly do any algebra problem in class. PEMDAS actually stands for the parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. Whenever you do an algebra problem, you have to do this order to correctly get the answer. So any algebra problem, you're going to start off doing anything that's inside parentheses from left to right. After you have your parentheses solved, then you move on to, are there any exponents? And that are things like 7 to the 7th power. You'll be coming up using those in math class this year too. So these will make more sense to you when we review it in class. Then after you have your parentheses and your exponents done, you start working with multiplying and dividing your algebra problem from left to right. If a division problem comes first in your algebra problem, you have to do that first. The multiply and divide means doing multiplying and dividing from left to right. Does not matter if the order is switched around. You just have to get all of your multiplying done first and all of your dividing done. Whatever is left in your algebra problem should be addition and subtraction. You also do any addition and subtraction from left to right first. So if subtraction problem is on the far left-hand side, you have to do that subtraction. You can't start with addition and then come back to subtraction. Whatever your problem is, just work it from left to right. Let's give you some examples. Okay, starting off here, here's an example of an algebra problem you'll probably come across too in middle school. You'll see something like 10 plus 10 times parentheses 7 times 2. I also rewrote it this way because you also see some examples where there is no time sign in between the parentheses and the numbers. This also means multiply. So this would actually read 10 plus 10 times whatever's in that parentheses. Okay, so let's try this algebra problem the old-fashioned way where you work a problem from left to right. So starting off here, you see 10 plus 10. I drew these little lines to show my answer is 20. Now my algebra teacher taught me that you always use your paper, use all of your space provided, and do it one step at a time, work down. That way, if you're ever confused, you can always work back up and see exactly what you did. So I did 10 plus 10 is 20. Then I brought down what's left. Well, that's 20 times parentheses 7 times 2 parentheses. Well, if I continue to work it from left to right, I'm going to multiply 20 times 7, and I get 140. That means I've got the times sign and the 2 left. Well, if I take 140 times 2, I'm going to get 280. Now, you may think this is super easy, but I didn't follow the rules in algebra, so even though I got 280, it's wrong because I did not do it in the correct order. If I use PEMDAS, that means I have to do anything inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to take 7 times 2 and get 14. So as I bring these down, this step is done. Well, parentheses are done. Are there any exponents in here? No. So my exponents are done. Now I have to multiply and divide from left to right. So even though there's addition right here, I can't do that yet because I have to multiply from left to right. Well, you see 10 parentheses 14 actually means 10 times 14, which is 140. So as I bring down what's left, I've got 10 plus 140 gives me an answer of 150. This is actually the correct answer because I followed the rules of PEMDAS. So that 280 is way off from 150. Okay, feel free to pause this video and kind of look at this more, but I've got more examples I want to show you before you start your actual assignment. Okay, here's my next problem. 10 times 12 times 7 plus 5. You see where I also wrote it? 10 times 12 parentheses 7 plus 5. So if I do this without using PEMDAS and work this from left to right, I'm going to get 10 times 12 is 120. Okay, I do one step at a time. I bring down what's left to do. And as I keep working it across, 120 times 7 is 840. Bring down what's left. I see 840 plus 5 is 845. Now, using the correct PEMDAS method, I have to do what's inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to take 7 plus 5 and get 12. Okay, there are no parentheses left anymore, so I'm going to ask, are there any exponents? Well, there's no exponents, and those are like a to the second power that I was showing you up here. These are the exponents. There's nothing in that problem, so I don't have to do any exponents. So now I know I did this here first, and you should be asking me, Mr. Tams, why aren't you taking 10 times 12? Well, using number talks and knowing compatibility, is 6 times 9 the same as 9 times 6? Yes, it is. So I'm going to use numbers that I know. So I know that 12 times 12 is 144. Now I can take 10 times 144 and just add that 0. You could also take 10 times 12 and get 120, and then take 120 times 12 and still get the exact same answer. But I used easy multiplication that I can remember. So remember to multiply the numbers that you recognize first. Okay, and as you can see here, when I multiply without PEMDAS, I get 845, and with the correct answer being 1,440. All right, feel free to pause this, but I'm going to keep moving on and showing you some more examples. Okay, here's another example that you might see in algebra. 13 minus 5 plus 18 divided by 2. Well, if I remember my acronym PEMDAS, I have to ask myself, is there any parentheses in this problem that I can do first? Nope. Parentheses are done. So now I'm moving on to exponents. Are there any exponents? Nope. So now it comes down to straight multiplying and dividing from left to right. So here's my next step, multiply and divide from left to right. Well, the only thing I need to multiply and divide is this first. So I'm going to link these two numbers up, and then it's going to become 18 divided by 2 is 9. Well, my multiplying and dividing is done. So now it comes down to the last two, add and subtract from left to right. Well, I know adding is first on PEMDAS, but that does not matter. Whatever you see for addition and subtraction on the left, you have to do first. So I'm going to take 13 minus 5 and get 8. I bring these down after I subtract, and I have 8 plus 9 left. 8 plus 9 is 17. So using PEMDAS, you can see where I did my multiplying and dividing, and then switched over to adding and subtracting from left to right. Let's give you another example here. Okay, I kind of hid my work because I want to show this to you. If you can remember your acronym PEMDAS, you have to do what's inside the parentheses first. So you're going to have to take 9 plus 15, and then jump over to 7 minus 5. You cannot multiply and divide until what's inside your parentheses is done first. So when I do that, 9 plus 15 is 24. And then you see 7 minus 5 is 2. Okay, so now parentheses are done. There are no exponents, so now it comes down to multiplying and dividing from left to right. Well, 24 divided by 2 is, you guessed it, 12. So using PEMDAS and doing what's inside the parentheses first, then multiplying and dividing, and then adding, subtracting, gives you 12. If you did this the old-fashioned way and did not do PEMDAS, you're going to go, well, 15 divided by 7, that's not a whole number. I can't do that. Here's just one example why using PEMDAS is correct in algebra. All right, let's try this one here. Thinking PEMDAS, what's your first step? You guessed it. You got to do what's inside the parentheses first. You cannot add or divide. So doing what's inside the parentheses, 10 minus 4 is 6. Okay, well, parentheses are done. So then there's exponents. And I'll do an exponents here coming up to show you how that works. But as of right now, there are no exponents. So then you have multiplying and dividing from left to right, and then adding and subtracting from left to right. Well, here's my multiplying and dividing. 20 divided by 5 is 4. I bring down what's left, and you see I've got 6 plus 4 gives me the final answer of 10. As always, this is a quick overview of PEMDAS. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm here to help, but this video should give you a quick understanding of how PEMDAS actually works. All right, moving on to an example with exponents. Here's my problem. 9 minus 2, exponent 2, plus 14 divided by 2. Well, when I do my parentheses, you see 9 minus 2 is 7. Do not look at this as 7 times 2. It's not. It actually means 7 times 7, which is 49. Okay, so do not look at exponents as 7 times 2. It's actually 7 times itself again. So as you work this across here, 9 minus 2 is 7. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So here's my next problem. 7 exponent 2 plus 7. Here's your next thing with PEMDAS, is your exponents. I have to do that next. I cannot multiply and divide. I cannot do anything until my exponents are done. So I'm going to treat this as 7 times 7, which is 49. So I now have 49 plus 7. Well, no multiplying and dividing, so I'm left with adding and subtracting, and you see 56. All right, moving on to the last problem that I want to show you here. Sometimes you're going to get long problems to do inside parentheses. So you see here with 7 plus 2 times 5 minus 3, you have to follow the rules of PEMDAS inside the parentheses. You cannot do 7 plus 2 times 5 minus 3. You still have to follow the rules of PEMDAS. So you see here, I have to multiply and divide because there are no exponents. So my next step in PEMDAS, since there's no exponents, multiply and divide. So I'm not going to do 7 plus 2. This 2 actually belongs to this multiplication problem here. So that 2 does not go here. It goes right next to the times sign, and 2 times 5 is 10. I clean up my mess, and I rewrite this. So now it's 7 plus 10 minus 3. I now do my addition and subtraction. What's left? Well, 7 plus 10 is 17. 17 minus 3 is 14. So I bring down what's left, and you see I have 3 plus 14. What's my final answer? You guessed it, 17. Okay, these are some examples of where you will use PEMDAS. I do not expect you to be an expert from watching this video, but this should give you a good foundation to start. As always, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask me in class. I would encourage you to use this video if I'm busy helping another student, and you may just have to go back and rewatch this a second time to catch on to what to do. But you have to remember in algebra, at the automatic level, if you remember PEMDAS and know to do parentheses, then exponents, then multiplying and dividing, and finally finishing up with adding and subtracting with any algebra problem, you will always get the correct answer. Good luck.